Hi and welcome back to the AQA GCSE History Elizabeth I Division Series. This is episode 4 and we're looking at Elizabeth and marriage. Elizabeth was expected to marry and produce an heir because people believed that women couldn't rule effectively. She was put under pressure to find a husband who could rule for her. They were concerned over Elizabeth's succession. If she died without an heir, then there would be risk of a civil war, as many different groups would start competing for the throne. They wanted to prevent this, so they pressurised Elizabeth to marry and produce an heir as quickly as possible. The pressure came from the Privy Council and the Parliament, as they were deeply concerned about the succession. They repeatedly asked the Queen to marry or name an heir, but she always refused. When asked to find a husband in 1563, Elizabeth just refused to even discuss the matter. There were many issues around finding the most suitable husband. If Elizabeth married a European prince or king, then this would give the foreign country too much influence over England. In the past, Mary Queen I's marriage to King Philip II of Spain forced England to become too involved in an expensive war with France. If Elizabeth were to choose a member of English nobility, then this could create anger and resentment among those who were not chosen, as they would be jealous. England was now a Protestant country due to the religious settlement. Therefore, it would be difficult for Elizabeth to marry a Catholic. There were growing anti-Catholic feelings in England, which could make the Catholic husband unpopular and might undermine the support for Elizabeth. Elizabeth was also reluctant to marry anyone because women were expected to obey their husbands, so she would lose much of her power and freedom if she did marry. Elizabeth's suitors included Robert Devereux, Robert Dudley, Philip II of Spain, Duke Franz of Anjou, and also Archduke Charles of Austria and Eric, King of Sweden. For Robert Devereux, he was Protestant, and he was very wealthy and owned lots of estates. He also had a monopoly on sweet wine, and a monopoly is where you have an exclusive control over a trade, so it meant that he became very wealthy as a result of it. He is also a military hero. However, he was a lower rank than the Queen, and he was poor when he was younger. He was also 33 years younger than Elizabeth. He was reckless, immature, ambitious, and arrogant, and he was also Robert Dudley's stepson. Robert Dudley was Protestant. He had a high status of Earl of Leicester, which was given to him by Elizabeth. He was very wealthy due to Elizabeth's generosity. He was English, and he was also one of Elizabeth's favourites. However, he was a lower rank than the Queen, and Elizabeth and Robert had been friends since birth. If they married, this may be seen as favouritism. His former wife also mysteriously died, and there was a large superstition as to whether he killed her. Then there was also Philip II of Spain. Philip was the same rank as the Queen. He was very wealthy, he owned many countries, and his marriage would create an alliance with Spain. However, he was Catholic and Spanish, so he was a big threat. He was also previously married to Mary I, and this has started a rebellion. If Elizabeth didn't marry Philip, then it would mean a war would occur with Spain. This was later a factor for the Spanish Armada. Then there was Duke Francis of Anjou. He was very wealthy, he owned an estate in France, he was the same rank as the Queen, and he showed sympathy towards Protestants. However, he was Catholic. He was also Elizabeth's stepson, and he was French. This was unpopular due to the mass murder of the French Protestants. By the late 1570s, Elizabeth was in her mid-40s, and it was clear that she would never have children. The issue of succession still needed to be resolved, but Elizabeth refused to name a successor. She was concerned that the successor might become focused on the plot and overthrow her. Towards the end of her reign, her advisers began a secret negotiation to make James VI of Scotland, who was Mary the Queen of Scots' son, heir to the throne. When Elizabeth died in 1603, James became King of England. So that's the end of episode 4 of the AQA GCSE History Elizabeth I Division Series. Next episode we'll be looking at poverty in Elizabethan England. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, subscribe and leave any questions in the comments below.